Hey everybody, it's SEC Championship Week and we've got Russ Tanner and D.J. Shockley here, and we're going to talk a little football for you as the Bulldogs finished off a 12-0 regular season again, guys. Let's go back to September. And did you ever think, everybody was talking about a three-peat, but did you think we could get to this stage unscathed? In this conference, that's so difficult to do.
Coming to this season, I thought that it would be a lot tougher, and I didn't think it would be as, I won't say easy, but I thought that this season would be a little bit tougher as far as winning inside the SEC. As much as everybody talked about how hard it would be or how easy it would be with our schedule, I still thought there would be some bumps and bruises. You got a new quarterback stepping in. You got some new guys and some new roles on the defense side of the ball. And you still find a way to win ball games. And we're sitting here, like you mentioned, at 12-0. 8-0 again inside the SEC. I did not see this happening the way it did. You knew there was talent here. You knew Kirby would have these guys ready to go every single week. But there's always weird things that happen throughout a year. There's weird things that happen throughout a game. And you'll say, okay, well, that game was tough. We found a way. But then you get through the season and you say, man, this team has been impressive. They've been fun to watch. And in the season, you're 12-0 here, getting ready to play for another SEC championship.
So my answer to that question is no. I did not think we would have gone 12-0 just because it is so stinking hard to win every game in college football, let alone the SEC. I heard somebody saying the other day, you realize that Brock Bowers, I'm sure there's others by the way, will finish his career with never losing a regular season football game?
That's crazy.
That's wild.
Yeah.
But you're breaking a new quarterback in the toughest conference in America, and yet the schedule is soft, whatever. The schedule ended up not being that soft. You ended up some games down the stretch. Missouri's a good football team. They're going to be in New Year's Six Bowl. Ole Miss, New Year's Six Bowl. Kentucky, when we played them, they're up and down, but they played well. You're breaking in a brand new quarterback, as Shock mentioned. In the last 2 years, we did that with Stetson. Yeah, but we had arguably the greatest defense in the history of college football 2 years ago, and then last year was great as well. So you could break in a new guy when you've got the best defense we've ever seen, which is saying something at the University of Georgia, by the way. So testament to Carson Beck, testament to all the guys playing. But the job that Kirby and this staff have done this year to get these guys ready every single week until they could figure it out. Because you had pups playing earlier this year. You could run the tape back. Weeks 3, weeks 4, week 5, we had a lot of questions. O-line's not that great. The defense isn't doing what they're supposed to do. Who's going to be the guy at receiver? Carson Beck, I don't know. And now you look at it like we're clearly the best team in the country going into the biggest weekend of the year. So, unbelievable job. Can't believe we're sitting here 12-0 again.
People ask last week going into Tech, how do you not look past this opponent for what's coming up this week? SEC championship game was already determined with Georgia and Alabama. How does Kirby get his guys not to look past? And my answer was, it just doesn't happen. I mean, is it in the culture here that you're so ingrained to live in this moment, moment by moment, win that moment? We hear that all the time. That some of these guys may not even know and I know I'm being facetious, but they may not even know who the next opponent is because they're so focused on the job at hand for that week.
The mantra all year long has been win the moment, right? Stay in the moment, be present. That's kind of what we've heard all year long. And, give Tech credit. They played well. Yeah. Haynes King looked really good. Brent Key's done a great job. They're going to be better as a football team. But Georgia showed up. We could talk about some of the calls that happened during the game as far as the officials and all that, not blaming the rest, but a few crucial calls. We were 2 or 3 plays away from absolutely blowing Tech out again. It'd be another 45-10 type game. Tech made it close, a lot of credit to them. But Georgia has shown up every single week. It's the most impressive thing about this streak, that there hasn't been a mental letdown that has led to a loss so far. And you're talking about 18 to 22, 23-year-old guys, having them ready every single week. We can't quantify what's happened over there in a way that makes sense to any of us. Kirby and the staff have done an unbelievable job. The mindset, the culture, the mentality, all those things have got Georgia where we're sitting again, man, 29 in a row.
I'll say this team is the most cliche team that you can have. When I say cliche, all the terms of humility is 1 week away. Just taking it one game at a time, taking it one day at a time. And it's the realest thing I can say about this program. Yeah, absolutely. What they say about this program, the culture, and how they go about their business. And I hear it every single week when I'm in the locker room and I hear Kirby talk to his team pregame, halftime, after the game. That is all he stresses, is we have to focus on the now. And I think that is what keeps his team so hyper-focused on where they're at, where they're going, and how they have to get there. And you've seen it every single week. I think we go back to the beginning of the year where you had a couple guys out. You had Ladd out early in the year, didn't play the first 3 games. Dejon wasn't playing the first 3 ball games. You got a new offensive coordinator, but nobody flinched. It was whoever's the next guy in, it's your turn. Next guy up, another cliche term, and they did that. Brock got hurt during the year. Oh, how do we replace Brock? Here comes Oscar Depp. Here comes Ra. Here comes Dom. All these guys, other guys making plays throughout the season. And I think that's been the true character of this team, is how they perform in those situations when everybody think they should fold, or they think this team has finally hit a hitch. They're finally something that's going to hold them back and distract them, and it never has been that case, and they continue to do it every week. And the one thing that Kirby mentions every single week is humility is 1 week away. You talk to him just as much as I do, and he talks about that every single week. Oh, yeah, we just had a big win versus Kentucky. Guess what you get rewarded with? Here comes Missouri. Here comes Auburn, whoever it is. I mean, every single week it's been about whoever that team is. That's our focus. Last week doesn't matter. Today is what matters.
I try not to ask him that question because I know that answer is coming.
Yeah.
So, you try to go in a different direction and get something fresh and something new. All those guys you just ran through, Shock, I think every one of them has missed multiple games. Yeah. And that leads me to a question for you, Russ. As a former offensive lineman, we've seen Mims miss games. We've seen, Ratledge was out this past week with Georgia Tech. We've seen Truss miss games. And I don't want to call it a plug and play, but it's guys that are ready to come in, and you don't see much drop off on the offensive line. Have you seen that?
It's unbelievable. The offensive line, more than any other unit on the field, has to have reps together to be good. Yeah, receivers a little bit different, running backs a little bit different. You can line a guy up out there. He may not know the perfect system and say, hey, man, run a post and beat that guy. And he can do it. You're like, dang, that receiver's pretty good.
It's still hard to hit him, though. I'm just saying.
A quarterback running his mouth thinking he's important or something. It's tough, right? With the offensive line, we talked about this early in the year. The term that always gets used for offensive line is they've got to gel. What does gelling really mean? All it really means is you react to whatever the defense is doing at the same time without having to verbally communicate it. They're running a stunt. The most famous one of the year, 2 weeks ago, we're playing Tennessee. They ran a kind of a TE out here. The defensive tackle went out, Ian came in, and Mims and Ratledge dumped them. It was unbelievable. So being able to pick that stuff up mid-game with multiple looks, hostile environments, without being able to verbally communicate, when the offensive line gets there, you're playing really well. And we've seen it, right, the last few weeks. Carson Beck, for about a 5-week stretch, didn't get touched. The running game is different now. Kendall Milton looks great. There's holes everywhere. And consistency on the offensive line leads to that. But Georgia this year, other than center, other than Cedric in the middle, every other position has rotated a ton, and those guys are all comfortable with it. If Cedric gets hurt, by the way, we're in a bad spot because he's the leader up there, and he's what holds them all together. But the rest of those guys, you go Mims, Ratledge, Truss, Fairchild, Ernest Green, Michael Morris. You're naming 7 or 8 guys that are high-end NFL-type players that are rotating at different positions, and they've done it seamlessly. It's super impressive. You did, man. It made me mad.
That's what we like.
I hate ticky-tack calls that affect the game.
Well, I mean, Ty Ingram Dawkins got the ticky-tack call on the
face
unnecessary
mask.
roughness on the quarterback on King as he's tackling him. So
I'm not a blame the rest guy in life because that's a loser mentality.
But a couple of them,
there were a couple that were bad.
But sometimes you have to, right?
Yeah, for sure.
All right, let's talk about Alabama. Yeah. Have they gotten better as the season has gone along? Did you guys get a chance to see any of the Auburn game over the weekend?
Yeah, you know what? I think this is a team that has definitely improved, and I think they improved on both sides of the ball, and a lot of the attention goes to their offense for sure. And Milroe is a talent of his own, and early in the year it was all about him running around, making plays, but he's gotten better throwing the football too. And
he still does that a lot, though.
He still does that. He does, and that's something that definitely Georgia will have to pay attention to this week. But you think about some of the guys that they've got on the outside. A guy we know pretty well in Jermaine Burton, who used to be here. He's their leading receiver in yards. Isaiah Bond, the guy who caught the big touchdown against Auburn. He's their leading receiver. They get it done in multiple ways. Their back is a downhill physical runner, and it takes a little pressure off of the quarterback as well. Everybody thinks that Milroe's a guy who just runs around a lot. Well, he's only got 2 games where he's rushed for over 100 yards. I was obviously Auburn, and then against LSU.
Like this a lot.
Yeah, and he wants he wants to buy time. He will take off if he needs to, but he wants to throw the football. But ultimately, I think this team has improved defensively. They only giving up 17 points a game. They're right behind us in the SEC. They got two guys up front who Dallas Turner and Braswell who can get sacks. Both of them got 8 sacks on the year. They can get after you. But the only thing that gives me some positivity is they're giving up 39 sacks on the year, as we've given up 10. How crazy is that? They've given up 39 sacks. Now, a lot of that is probably him running around and taking sacks or, getting tackled. But to get back to your question, they have improved. You've seen the gradual progression of their offense get better, and their defense has kind of stymied people towards the end of the season. So it's going to be a fun matchup to watch. There are a lot of matchups that absolutely favor us, but whenever you play Alabama and Nick Saban, you know that you're going to get the best out of them.
At the end of the day, Jalen Milroe's good. Jermaine Burton's good. Jace McClellan's good. All that's fine. This game is what I love. It gets won by the biggest, nastiest dudes on the field. It's O-line versus D-line. It's Dallas Turner and his guys over there. Can they pressure Carson Beck only bringing 4? Because, by the way, Carson Beck has shown if you blitz him and don't get there, you're in trouble because he finds his guys. If they can get pressure with 4 on us and shut our run game down a little bit, it's a dogfight. And same thing for us. If we can make them one-dimensional, take that running game away, and make Jalen Milroe beat you, which is what if I had to coach the game, and if Kirby calls me this week and says, hey, Russ, what do you think we should do to shut Bama down?
Expecting that call?
Probably not. It will be a first. So it's probably going to be trying to make Milroe beat you from the pocket. Because he's such an athlete, right? Sure. Yeah. You don't want him to get on the edges and threaten you with the run of the pass and find a guy wide open. You're going to try to squeeze him. Going to try to kind of be like that anaconda of a defense, just squeezing it right there, trying to choke it out of them, which is what we're going to try to do, and that happens on the lines of scrimmage. And Bama is the only team in the country, by the way, that is as talented on the line of scrimmage as Georgia is.
I was just going to ask that question. Is this the first team we've played all season that matches up with Georgia from a talent level across the board at most positions? I mean, there's some teams we've played, okay, maybe their line is as good as our line, maybe their backs are as good as our backs, whatever the position group is. But when you look at Georgia and you look at Alabama, I mean, they both recruit from the same pool. They get the same kind of athlete. Yeah. Is this the first game when, that's kind of a draw as far as talent level?
I'll say this. You think about teams like Missouri who played us really tough, other teams in this SEC who have really good players, but I think Georgia was deeper than a lot of the other teams. Yeah. So you have a Luther Burden who was really good, who probably could come here and be a starter on this team, but that's just one guy. And you look on the other teams, they have similar guys where, okay, you can plug him in on our offense. You can plug him in on our defense, he can play. This is, I think, the first game where you have a team that matches the depth that I think we have, and it'll definitely stick out in this ball game because once one guy goes down, you see another guy come in. That's how, Nick Saban has done it for years, and that's what Kirby has done here for, the last whatever amount of years he's been here. Continue to build that depth so that, hey, when things happen in a ball game, another guy that's stepping in can fill the same role and play as good. So I think this, from a player standpoint, this absolutely is one of the games where you're going to look over and say, all right, this guy is just as good as the guy that stands in front of us, and then the next guy can be just as good as our next guy as well.
We've used the analogy, I think, a couple times this year about is heavyweight boxing, right? And these are the two heaviest of the heavyweights going at it this week. If you look at the last 3 or 4 years of college football, and what Georgia's done all year long, to continue that analogy, is they've just thrown body blows to people in the first half of games. My wife and my daughter get mad watching things like, why do we just keep running the ball up the middle for 2 and 3 yards? Well, because eventually they can't take it no more. Georgia has worn them down. And Kirby, if you ask me what's been the trademark of Kirby's teams on the field, is if we get to the second half of a game and we're not down, we're going to beat the crap out of whoever we're playing. They physically cannot stand up to us. So we throw body blows. And finally, he hits Ladd deep. He hits Rah deep. Brock makes a play and gets past him. Bama is one of the few teams, there's only 2 or 3 teams in the country, by the way, to Shock's point, the depth they have, to where if you punch them in the body enough, eventually other teams have just folded. They're going to roll somebody else in. So you've got to be on your game even more because Bama ain't backing down, man. And guess what? Georgia ain't backing down either. Like, this is it. Like, go ahead and name the national champion out of this game right here.
Examples of how deep our team is. We got 7 guys at receiver who have over 20 receptions.
That's wild.
5 guys over 350-plus yards, 2 backs who combined have 1,400 yards, almost 1,500 yards, 21 touchdowns between 2 guys. I mean, come on, that speaks to the ability to have so many guys fill a void when you need them, guys up, guys down, other guys stepping up. It's just fun to watch on both sides of the ball how many guys can roll in there. And Kirby's done it for years. You watch the amount of guys who are coming into a ball game, and guys are just coming in. I mean, we got 2 true freshmen at middle linebacker calling the shots for us. I mean, come on, that doesn't happen in the SEC and you still be successful. Yeah, they've had some issues, but to have the confidence to put 2 freshmen at linebacker in the middle of your defense to control it, I mean, that just speaks volumes about the depth you got there already.
How much, in your opinions, how much stress is on this team to win this game with Alabama to get to the next level? Is that thought going through your mind this week that if we don't win, we may not get to the playoffs? I mean, I know that's out of control,
Yeah.
so maybe that's completely out of the minds of these guys, because if you can't control it, then why is it a concern?
Yeah.
But is that thought there? Would it be there if you're playing?
I would say yes, but you would never admit it publicly. Like, you won't hear any guy say it all week long. You can try to get them to say it, but when they're in their dorm or when they're in their room, you say, man, we really need this.
Yes.
Like, you look around the whole landscape, you can say, all right, this team here, this team there, this team wins their conference, then it maybe leaves us out. All that is thought about, for sure. And you won't think about it, but once you get on the field, it goes away. Because you get out here, you have so many other things to worry about in a practice as you get ready, as you game plan, as you study. All that stuff goes out the window. Now, when you're just sitting back relaxing and, the guys are just talking, yeah, absolutely. You think about it, you talk about it. But once you get onto the field, you get on the practice field, you get into that game on Saturday, that'll be the last thing on their mind is what's going to happen on Sunday. Because if you do that, it's going to take away from what you're doing on Saturday. So these guys will absolutely know the implications of what happens. They won't admit it, but once you get in between these lines, it's time to go.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I think that we talked about mindset, mentality, all that stuff earlier. A team that expects to win is very hard to beat because they always think it's going to turn out in their favor, and they don't wither, and that's what we've seen this team do. So, yeah, you're going to worry about all that stuff that happens, and guess what? If history tells us anything, Bama's going to score first this week, right? I mean,
we got to stop on the first tackle.
Yeah, technically, but then we gave the ball back and they scored.
Yeah, they got
So, I mean, you're going to get punched in the mouth against Bama, and when that thing happens, you don't look at the scoreboard and be like, oh, no, Oklahoma State's beating Texas. Like, that doesn't happen. Yeah. You revert back. Coach Rick used to talk a lot about, people would ask Coach Rick, say, you're not a big rah-rah guy. Not rah-rah Thomas. He would love rah-rah, by the way. We would love to have him. You're not a big hype guy. What do you think about that? Why don't you get your team more fired up? He's like, man, all that getting jazzed up, all the juice flowing, getting as pumped as you can, it happens so you get hit in the mouth in the first play. Then you revert back to your habits. You revert back to the things that you've practiced, the things that you know. And Kirby's attention to detail, they asked him, I was watching his press conference stuff, reading some of his stuff this week about what did he learn from Saban? And he was just saying the main thing for him was just the amount of detail that Saban is in charge of and knows. And that's what Kirby's done. Like, those guys are prepared for every situation. And it's going to be a matter, can they perform with the bright lights on against Bama? That's yet to be seen. But they're going to be prepared for the situation. And when you're prepared for the situation, all that outside noise about what other teams are doing gets blocked out. You don't think about that anymore because you're prepared for the moment that you're in.
I give a good example of the attention to detail that Russ is talking about. 2 examples. Go back to last year. Everybody remembers the Ohio State game, and Kirby calls the timeout right before the fake punt happens. That was the smallest, minute detail. I was talking to some of the guys on the side, and they say, yeah, the guys on the headsets were talking to Kirby and they said, oh, something looks different. Something looks a little bit off. This guy's aligned just a tad bit off. And that small detail, okay, let's get a timeout.
Probably the biggest play of the game.
And obviously that probably was the play that won the game because obviously they converted and would have been a big play. They'd have, ran the clock out or whatever it was. And then the other thing is this thing I've watched Kirby do the last 3 years. As soon as he gets to the stadium, you probably see it as well. He walks the entire stadium, every single stadium that he gets to, because he's looking at the wind. He's looking at where's the clock at. He's looking at the sun. He's looking at, which way they want to kick it. Those are the small details you think about so that it's not like, oh, we're coming out, yeah, we want to toss, we just want to kick it. No, there's a reason for every single thing that they're doing from the time they get to the stadium till, that last, kneel down at the end of the ball game. That attention to detail is absolutely spot on what Russ is talking about with how he goes about his business every single day. And then you watch his players, you watch his coaches, they all are the same way, and that's why we're sitting here 12-0 again.
Do you guys have a favorite moment from all season, or a favorite play group? Who have you seen, that maybe emerged that you didn't think, whether it's a special teams guy or, a freshman on offense, or, maybe a four-year guy that's just having the season of his career?
The guy that comes to mind to me when you say that is my man Muse. He came onto the scene. I don't think nobody, we saw him in spring. You've seen him make some plays here and there in the offseason and some of the stuff you do. But you're like, I don't know if this guy can do it in SEC play. I don't know if he can do it when the lights are bright. And to watch what he did at the beginning of the year, to watch what he's doing now, to still have that role. He's gone through the whole season, and he could have easily had a couple blunders here or there and not be the guy anymore. But this guy continues to catch the punts. He continues to give you great field position. He's not scared to bring it out on kickoff and, give you some extra yardage there. I think Muse has been so cool. He's been so fun to watch. And it's crazy that I'm bringing up a special team guy. Him and Peyton obviously are, a freshman getting it done in this league, had some big-time kicks this year. So I think those two guys for me absolutely stick out, because there are times where we probably wouldn't be where we are without those two guys, pulling their weight.
Peyton Woodring is almost automatic now, by the way. I love watching him. Mekhi Muse is a great call. You could go through a lot of guys on this team, the C.J. Allens, the Raylan Wilkes of the world, and look at all that and like how fun it is to watch it emerge. Nas Stackhouse going down the sideline for that. At the end of the day, it's just fun to watch. But for me, I go back to what I think was a turning point this year was the second half of that Auburn game. Because at that point, we'd all said at some point, Carson Beck was getting that game manager stuff, which he is, by the way, but he's spreading the ball around and getting everywhere, which is fine. Game manager used to be a really negative thing. It's being loosened up a little. But the implication was that Carson Beck would not be able to go and win a game for you if he had to. That Georgia was going to be in the lead. He could spread the ball around, just do what had to be done to win. But could he put the team on his back and go get it? Auburn, hostile environment. Jordan-Hare Stadium, we mentioned it earlier, against a team that is trying to, it'd be the biggest, notch in their belt all year long to knock Georgia down. They're playing well. They're doing it to us. And all of a sudden, what happened in the second half of that game? Carson Beck was like, Let me go. And by the way, what did he decide to do? Finally was like, you know what?
19.
I'm going to throw the ball to 19. And when Carson Beck decides he's going to line up and rip the ball to Brock Bowers, this team changed. And it's like the confidence for him kicked in. The light came on, and he's like, okay, I'm pretty good. Yeah. There's not a throw I can't make. And I don't like sitting here giving quarterbacks the credit for the biggest moment of the season, but to be a first-year starter, you've got to have that moment. And for him, to me, that was his moment. The second half of that Auburn game where he just saddled up and said, let's ride. And he went and won the game. And he's been a different player the rest of the year.
What's the fine line between cocky and confidence?
Ooh, I've got a line for this.
They've won 29 in a row.
Yeah.
How do you not become a little bit cocky about that?
I've got a line.
Stick your chest out.
Yeah.
Nobody can beat us. You can't have that mentality, though, right?
Yeah. I've got a line for it.
Fire it at us.
Confidence based on fact is not arrogance. So you got to think about that one for a minute, because that's deep. You guys can't think like I can think.
That's deep for you.
Yeah, that's right. Confidence based on fact is not arrogance. So Georgia's a very confident team, which is what you want. You don't want to be second guessing what you're doing. You don't want to say, I don't know if this play's going to work. I don't know if I can stop that guy. They're very confident, but it's based on fact. We've won back-to-back national championships. We've won 29 games in a row. We've had 3 consecutive undefeated regular seasons. The fact is Georgia's been dominant in a way that college football hasn't seen in 70 or 80 years. So there's no arrogance because of that, because they prepare. The fact is they prepare, and it shows on the field. So they just show up every week expecting to win, but then they take care of the details. It's the boring stuff that we don't know. We're sitting here in the indoor facility. There's guys in and out going to get treatment, going to work out, going to watch film. They are preparing. They're not just thinking the red carpet's going to roll out and you're going to roll the tide. That ain't going to happen. They're preparing for it, and they're very confident in the system and the players and the coaching staff. It's a beautiful thing.
I think to add to that, the one thing that can give you confidence is the fact that you've done it.
Yeah.
You've been in the position before where it's been hard or you had to overcome something and you've seen it done. And I think the other thing about it is this team is so unselfish. There's so many guys on this team that don't care who gets the credit. They just want the team to win. And I think that's what another thing that Kirby has absolutely ingrained into his mission. It's team, it's me. I know everybody's heard that kind of mantra that he's had, and it's the absolute truth. The mission is to go out and win ball games by any means necessary, do it with your team, and everything else will come. All the individual stuff will come with it, and we've seen that happen over the last 3 years. And the fact that you look up and in April, there's this thing called the NFL draft. And you see all those guys who have bought into what this mission and this team is all about. And you see the last 2 years, 25 dudes are getting drafted. That's an easy sell when you come in here and say, hey, look, if you do it the right way, you can get your name called too. So it's cool to watch that kind of all come together and this team play in a way that it gives them that kind of confidence. And each and every week they do it.
Have y'all seen Arian Smith block, by the way?
Yeah.
I mean, fastest dude on the team. He ain't big as a minute. And he's been a guy that if you look at somebody
what?
big as a minute.
A minute. Oh, that's a good one.
He's
Never
small.
heard that one. Never heard
He's
that
small
one.
guy.
Yeah.
And he's a guy that was expecting kind of a breakout year. And he got lost in he was hurt early on and got shuffled behind some guys a little bit. Not a knock on him. Other guys have emerged and played well. Well, the last 2 weeks, he's gotten the ball a few times and looked great with the ball in his hands. But watch him block. He gets after. He's a track guy that's going after linebackers and doing it well. So that's exactly what Shock's talking about. They don't care who gets the credit. They just want to do their job.
One cool thing that I've seen, over this season, we come in on Mondays and we get a chance to talk to Coach Smart and talk to some players, and I always peek my head in the quarterback room. And I go in there, every week there's a different quarterback in there. One week I see Carson. He's like, yeah, man, this is, 10:30, 11 o'clock in the morning. He's like, man, I've been in here for 3 hours already just grinding on the tape. And I'm like, that tells you the preparation that this guy's put in. And people never see that. You will never hear about it. You'll never, people never talk about it. But the preparation that he's put in every single week to make sure that when things go in a ball game, he's the one that's prepared. He won't be the guy that you say, all right, 15 looked like he was ready for this one. No, he's going to be ready. Yep.
You guys both mentioned preparation, so we're going to clear the field here and give these guys room to prepare because they'll be out here soon enough and outside too getting ready for Alabama. But before we go, any final thought in your head about the SEC championship and this week? Any one nugget of importance that you want to throw at us?
My sentimental part of it is, let's enjoy this being the last, what we've known to be the SEC championship game forever. The East and the West are going away after this year. It's hard to win the East. It's hard to win the SEC. It's special. Yeah. To win the SEC is special. So, these guys have been there. They've done it. But for us as fans, I just want to enjoy it and soak it in. I've got young kids that don't expect Georgia to lose, and it's fun to watch. But at the end of the day, you just want to see which players make the plays. Our staff is prepared. Their staff is prepared. They've got good players. We've got good players. We expect to win. They expect to win. And it's the battle, man. It's the Coliseum. It's the man in the arena. Who's going to be the guy that steps up when the lights are the brightest and makes the play? And, we've got some dudes that expect it to be them. And, I hope it's Dawgs on top again.
I think understanding the moment of this game is something that everybody can absolutely enjoy. You've called this game for a number of years. Me and Russ have played in this game a couple times. We've all been there to watch the Dawgs go out and win this kind of ball game. And to be in that atmosphere is like no other. As we know, it's so hard to get to this point. It's so hard to play in this game. And if we understand how important and how cool it is to be in this game and enjoy this moment, you won't take it for granted. And I know the fans will be rocking. I know they'll be ready for it. Chance to beat Nick Saban in Alabama is always at the top of the list. But enjoy the moment, man, and know that this doesn't happen all the time. There are teams around this country, there are teams in this league who would just love to have the opportunity to sniff what this game feels like. And the Dawgs are in it again, and I'm with Russ. Dawgs on top, man.
What is this, 6 out of the last 7 in the championship game?
Pretty cool.
For Georgia. Bulldogs in Alabama, Saturday at 4 o'clock. Everybody always, what channel is it on? Well, it's on the radio at 12 o'clock on the Bulldog Sports Network, so we hope you tune in. Russ, thanks a lot. Shock, thanks a lot. We'll see you on the broadcast on Saturday, and thank you folks for watching, and go Dogs.
Go Dogs.
Go Dogs.